Welcome to Depression Proof Your Life Live, a space for honest conversations about mental health, mental wellness, recovery, and resilience. Here, we explore how communication, environment, and mindset work together to move us from silence to strength. We talk with people who have faced real-life challenges and explore the practical systems and daily structures that help them rebuild their mental strength. I'm Marion Mills, and I created DPYL out of my own journey through mental illness, addiction, and recovery. These conversations are about breaking stigma, finding support, and reminding you that you are not alone. Good evening. Welcome to Depression Proof Your Life Live. Today, I'm joined by Michael Scott. He's a powerhouse actor, director, and educator whose career spans film, television, and the full spectrum of voiceover. With his bold, award-winning voice, he has brought unforgettable characters and major campaigns to life with top studios and global brands like Marvel, Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, HBO, Netflix, Disney, Apple, Nike, and more. He's also a retired U.S. Army First Sergeant with 20 years of service. Michael brings discipline, strength, and a commanding presence with every performance. He was honored as Voice Actor of the Year at the 2025 One Voice Awards in Dallas, Texas. He also serves as the voice director for the anime fantasy game Where Winds Meet. Michael, thank you so much for your service and welcome to Depression Proof Your Life Live. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor that you're doing this for the troops, for the people, for anyone that needs help and has not heard that there are options out there.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you for being on the show. And of course, being a veteran myself, veterans definitely hold a special place in my heart. So
Same.
I'm definitely glad to, yes, exactly. And I know how you feel as well. So I'm glad to have you on. Of course, with me knowing you through voiceover, I believe that and have always seen you as strength, very commanding. But that's why I thought it was important to have you on the show to share how where you got that strength from. Some people are just born with it, right?
Yeah.
Some people are just born with it. Some people have to be taught or learn through time, through different situations that they've been in.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's talk, just ask you what actually originally drew you to the military?
So for me, what drew me is my recruiter sold it to me in terms of the this is already funny if you're a military veteran. So my recruiter, after getting to know me a little bit, framed it more in the sense of the service to people. At the time, I wanted to do police work, law enforcement, and my
Mhm.
whole purpose of that was to help people.
Got
So my recruiter kind of sold me on the version that you hear mostly for what the National Guard does in terms of helping
Oh,
out with earthquakes and
okay.
fires and floods and maybe a riot or 2, things like that, but really helping the community, and that's
Yes.
more what sold me than the war fighting side, which I wasn't super aware of at the time. Mind you, I was 17.
Yeah,
I know a little bit more in my 40s than I did at 17.
definitely. Yeah.
So I have no regrets, to be clear, about joining the military. It made me who I am. I'm very proud of my
Mhm.
service. But
Yeah.
there's something to be said about the fact that recruiters don't give you the whole picture. They don't give you the whole
Mm.
story. And many of the things she did promise, I was a teenager. I didn't know to get things in writing and make sure I had to fight
Mm.
after I was already in to get the
Yeah.
benefits and the bonuses and the air assault school and all the little things she promised me verbally. And I trusted her. And then she recruited me, and it was just the end of it.
Right.
So my initial reason for joining was to help people. My whole goal was to I can pick up a rifle and hit a target 300 meters away, but my mom can't, my niece can't.
Right.
And so for me, it was more about self-defense of our nation. That was where I came from and why specifically in the military I became a
Mm.
police officer. I served as a military police officer throughout my career. And to make a long story short, the more I did police work and studied it, my degrees are in history, philosophy, criminal law,
Okay.
education. The more I
Right.
studied it, I realized my whole purpose was joining to help people. But as law enforcement, you're reactive. You do something bad, I
Oh,
put
that's
handcuffs
good.
on you, and then it's
Yes,
a negative experience for you and for me.
that's right.
But with education, you could be proactive, and it's a positive experience for you and me. And I help you before
Mm.
And so the first half of
Wow.
my military career was really focused on my police mission, my federal police mission, but the
Okay.
second half was actually focused on education. I ran a military high school for at-risk youth called Sunburst Youth Academy,
Love it. Oh my god, I love that.
and I was commandant, which is like a principal, dean of students type of
Mhm.
role for the school and helped build it from the ground up. And I was really proud of that work because we helped teenagers who were
Yeah.
dropouts and had issues with drugs and gangs and
Yeah.
violence and abuse and neglect turn their lives around, and over 95% success rate of
Yeah.
getting their lives back on track. And ironically, that for me was what gave me fulfillment in my life
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was why I joined to begin with, was to help
Yeah.
people. And I felt like
Yeah.
I did a lot more through education than the actual, I'll just say, police officer side of it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I never knew that. I think that's amazing. And of course, that is because I was a social worker, that's another area that is extremely close to my heart is children,
Yeah.
youth.
It
I
small
think that
s Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, small side note, CBS News did a story on our school, a documentary,
Mhm.
and won an Emmy for telling the story of our academy and the lives of the students. So I'm very, again, very proud of that work as commandant of Sunburst Youth Academy.
And is Sunburst Academy?
Sunburst Youth Academy, it's called the National Guard Challenge is the national program. They're all over the
Mhm.
country. I've lost the number now, but before I retired, there were like 35 programs in 28 states. So they're all over the country. California currently has 3, but the one I focused on, we started that one and built it from scratch. So it's very,
Mm,
very
that's beautiful. Oh, yeah,
proud
definitely
of.
something to be proud of.
Yeah, I would say of my 20 years of service, that is the mission I'm most proud of because to this day, whether it's in person, at the movies, at a theme
Mhm.
park, or on social media, my students at the time, I was
Absolutely.
25 running a high
Mhm.
school, I've gotten to see the generational change because many of them have kids of their own now. They're in
Yeah.
their 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
and so it was very impactful in helping see tangible change even in the
Mm.
short span of time.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, I think it's extremely important for young Black youth to actually see a Black man in those positions, just showing another side. So I really appreciate that. Definitely something to be proud of. I know that we spoke prior to coming on, and I don't want you to touch on anything that's going to be triggering or anything like that. But I do want to ask, did you ever go into combat?
Yeah, I appreciate you checking the trigger warning.
That's
So
right. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
yes. So I did for us after 9/11, I'll say it wasn't if you were gonna get deployed, it was when. So I joined in 1999 and things were kinda peaceful for a very small window of time. But once 9/11 happened, all bets were off. I did missions foreign and domestic, and like I mentioned, as a police officer, we have basically 2 missions. Our garrison mission, which is a CHP officer, I should say, California Highway Patrol, sheriff, police. You do everything from domestic violence stops to traffic things to anything a regular police officer would do.
Yeah,
And then our
right.
combat mission as police officers can be anything from dealing with enemy prisoners of war, convoy escorts, security missions and details. So as a police officer, you're like the most deployable force next to infantry and
That's what I was about to
artillery in
say.
the
Yeah,
world.
infantry. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so I had many deployments over my time,
Yeah.
some peacekeeping missions, some combat support missions, but as I mentioned, it was you're there, you have to serve, you have to do your part, but it
Mm,
is difficult because even in the garrison missions as a police officer, your life is always in danger.
yeah,
Your average soldier, for those that have never been in the military, your average soldier doesn't just walk around with guns every day. It's like you pull them when you're training or going on a specific mission. But when you're a
right.
police officer, you got a gun every day, and
Yeah.
there's a threat every day, all the time. So
Mhm.
there's always the threat that someone will harm you or that you'll have to harm someone. And the reason I point that out is as a police officer in the military, even your own fellow troops are not a fan of you because you're
Of
the
course,
one
yeah,
you're the one
yeah.
that pulls them over. You're the one that intervenes in, like I mentioned, domestic violence. And mind you, these aren't civilians. You end up fighting highly trained soldiers and individuals, people who do combat for a
Are
living. So
can we just use the word that you used earlier? They're reactive, right?
yes,
They're
exactly.
yeah,
So I say that to paint a picture for those that are not as familiar with military service, but it doesn't matter where your mission is. It's wrought with danger, it's wrought with issues that can lead to PTSD, depression, anxiety. It's little things, right? Like when I sit in a restaurant, I want to be facing forward in case there's danger or threat.
Mm,
Or when I walk into a room, we call it mount training, military operation in urban terrain. You're like, all right, where are my entry exit points?
mhm.
Where is a threat going to come from? So there's certain little things that you can't turn off from those big things. So I eat really fast when I go to dinner because I'm
I
so
do
used to
too. Yeah.
that's the standard. You got to get it in where you can. Certain things are left with us almost as muscle memory,
Yeah.
and having to deal with that in your everyday now, my civilian life, it's
Mhm.
not always an easy transition.
Oh, gosh, I really appreciate you for sharing that. And I think it's extremely important. So much of what you just said is extremely important. Having your head on swivel all the time, yes, that is
Yes.
a real thing. Yeah, that is, yeah, it really is. It's a real thing. And I want to touch on how you are able to, and I don't even know if how you are able to, what caused you or helped you be able to have a transition
Mhm.
without having difficulty with depression, PTSD, anxiety. How did that happen?
First off, I'll say I do have those issues,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'll start by saying this, for those not as familiar, when we get out of the military, we have to go through a process with the VA or the Veterans Administration. I try to explain terms, so I'm not
Mhm.
sure exactly who our audience might be, but
Of course.
it
Yeah.
feels like the war after the war when you have to fight the VA for the benefits you've earned. Now, mind you, I did 20 years of military service. I was 17 when I went in. I was like a high school football star. I was like really
Right.
fit. So I was like in tip top shape. But obviously, over the years doing military missions, I was an air assault MP. I jumped out. I did missions out of helicopters where you
Right.
rappel. All these things add up, whether it's your
Yeah.
knees, your back, even the schools, the training, if you're not even like doing it for real, like there's
Right.
risk with that. So anyway, I say all that to say I feel like after you get out, you have to fight this second battle just to get the benefits you deserve, you earned, even though they say you earned them. And it's almost like the VA automatically denies you. And that actually gave me some more frustration,
Yeah.
stress,
Yeah.
anxiety than some of the active duty missions because I got a letter from the VA basically denying my claim. There's no evidence you hurt your back on active duty, right? And I had a stack of papers this thick, and
Right.
one of the
Yeah.
first papers says, "Hurt your back on this and that," and it was, like, different doctors on different missions,
Different
different duties.
times.
I had even
Hmm.
went to the dentist, and the dentist, I didn't know at the time, was like, "Anything going?" I was like, "Oh, I'm having some back problems," and the dentist documented that. So, here I am with all these medical records saying I hurt myself, and they were still just deny, and the only
Yeah.
way I got my claim approved, I literally had to go to our local Long Beach VA, and I said, literally with tears in my eyes, I don't know what else to do. I
Yeah.
got this letter saying there's no evidence that I hurt myself. I have this stack of evidence that shows I hurt myself from different dates, different times, different doctors, and I'm still being denied. And it was the only way it got approved. The guy looked at it and I'm so sorry. And a few weeks later, my claim got approved after fighting for it for 6 years almost. And like they had to back pay me. So I had this huge amount of money in my account. But it's like,
Right.
why did it have to be that
I
way?
shouldn't have to fight. I
Why did
shouldn't
I
have to
have to
fight. Yeah.
fight so hard? And most people would give up, and I'll tell you a real life story
That
from one of
part.
my soldiers who killed himself, who committed suicide on the VA lawn, and, you can Google this, it's a real story,
Yeah.
because ironically, my former commander, General Shinseki, who was over us and then later over the VA on one of my active duty missions, he was in charge of the VA, and long story short, the veteran basically wrote a sign that said, "Don't worry, I made my own appointment," and killed
Mm.
himself on the VA
Yeah.
lawn because it was so bad for so long. So as a result of that, luckily, the command got relieved, everything got changed around, and the biggest shift I've seen, at least in my lifetime of service, was they went from you could only go to a VA doctor to, "Okay, we'll let you
Yes.
go to an approved VA doctor and then
Yes.
connect it." And that I live in a city. I'm from LA, right? I'm from Compton. Like, we have doctors, medical, whatever here, but what about urban, rural areas that don't
Right.
have that
They don't
access?
have that
And
option. Yeah.
so many people who served just couldn't drive hour, 2 hours to a VA appointment. So, there have been a
Mhm.
lot of changes, I'm glad to say, but that gave me so much stress, anxiety, depression, just I don't know what to do. I served, I did everything right, I checked all the boxes, and even when I served, we're taught, "Drink water, put dirt on it, suck it up, drive on, don't go to
Right.
sick call, don't be a sick
Right.
call ranger."
Right.
Fellow vets know what I'm talking about, but
Absolutely.
basically,
Yeah.
you're supposed to not report things that happen to you, so it makes it even
Yeah.
harder when you're trying to find the proof
Mm.
in the documentation once you're out.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that
I
gave me chills. Yeah.
you feel me? So
Yeah.
it's something that I think is not talked about enough is preparing soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, I say it generically, for the transition between active duty and the civilian world because there's
That is
not
so
enough of that.
important. It is
Mhm.
extremely important. I really appreciate you for touching on that because I know we said that we were going to not go too deep into the combat question,
We're
but
in
I
here. We're in it.
no, but I appreciate it. It
Mhm.
is so important because there's so many people out there that are going through the same thing and hearing it from you, hearing it from someone who enjoyed your
Oh,
military
yeah,
service.
honorable
And
discharge, all the
right, you
ribbon I
know?
was soldier of the year, man, and they still denied me, so
So it's just so important to talk about that. That's one of the other things that Depression Proof Your Life actually focuses on is
Mhm.
transition. Transition, there's so many different transitions just in life
Yeah.
that can be extremely stressful. Even if they're necessary, they can be extremely stressful. And I have always said the same thing that you said. There needs to be something in place to prepare soldiers when they're getting out. And for someone like yourself that served 20 years, sometimes just that structure, the camaraderie, all of that can
Yeah.
be very difficult going into civilian life. But God knows it took me a long time. And when I have the opportunity to speak to any veteran, I tell them all the time, you may be denied. 9 times out of 10, you're going to
Yeah.
be denied the
You're
first
gonna
time.
be denied, I'm
And
on
and I believe sometimes they're trained to say deny, deny, deny
people
because
I
said
lost limbs and lost, like,
that part.
hearing and
Yeah.
sight, they get
Yeah.
denied. It's like, I could see
How?
before you sent me to
How?
wherever, now I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but
Yeah, I've used to go to the VA, like, that was my home away from home, and I talked to so many people when I used to smoke. Be standing out in
smoking
the
and
little
joking.
smoking booth, and they would talk about how so many different struggles. It's like, "I just got 10%. I don't
That's
have
what they give you,
anything."
a little go away money.
Really appreciate you for going into that. So many different things that you touched on is extremely important. So, yeah. So, of course, 20 years military service, a lot of times people assume that someone has difficulties and mental challenges. What would you say, because you already touched on how stressful that was, how do you handle stress now, especially with whatever challenges that you may have with PTSD, anxiety, depression? How do you manage all of that and to make sure that, say, for example, it doesn't spill into your voiceover career? Or have
Mhm.
you had any times that it did spill into your voiceover career?
I think it's important to get help.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, we're trained to be tough, and then as
Mhm.
men, we're trained to be men, and
Right.
whatever that may mean in your culture or society. And so there's this stigma about getting help. And
Mm.
the way I was raised, the way I was brought up, and then of course the military built that into me. And
Yeah.
I think what helped is living and working in academia where it's more accepted to get help and like
Mm.
treatment. I
Yeah.
think that helped me because again, as I mentioned, half of my service was like state active duty, half was like federal active duty and a mix of all that and
Right.
between National Guard reserve stuff. But for me, because I got some exposure in there in the civilian world, working more with
Yes.
civilians
Yes.
and educators, it was more
Mhm.
acceptable. But when I was more on active duty and it's like,
Yeah.
"Hoorah, just do what you do," and you're only
Right.
around other military people, then
Yes.
you don't always have that exposure. So I think for me, I was fortunate in having a range of missions in my time that made it more acceptable to get help. And
Yeah.
and towards the end of my career, having people just remind me, "If you don't have documentation, it didn't happen." So I
Yeah.
was fortunate with that. And again, it didn't come until the end because I was trying to be, super soldier like we all are.
Yeah.
High speed, low drag. I was a PT superstar. I did all my push-ups and sit-ups and my had a PT
Yeah,
patch.
record time.
Yeah, like that's your goal, your focus to be
Yeah.
on top. And when you're not for some reason, it's okay to get help. So, for me, it's knowing that it's okay, whether it's therapy, physical, mental, emotional, whatever
Mm.
resources you need, substance abuse. Like you mentioned at the top, like taking the shame out of it,
Yeah.
right? If we say something's an addiction, then it kind of takes the stigma out a little bit in
Yeah.
society. Hey, this person has a problem. They're not choosing to do this.
Yeah.
They can't help themselves. I feel like people have more sympathy and empathy for that as opposed
Mhm.
to it's like the old studies of depression, just stop being depressed, like, it doesn't work like that,
Just be
like,
happy.
yeah, we know now there's chemistry, brain chemistry, there's all these factors that have to do with it that
Yeah.
if there's not a stigma against taking a pill that might help you feel better mentally, physically, emotionally, then we should take that stigma away because everybody's body is different, right? Just like
Yeah.
you could, some
Hmm.
person could be allergic to this medicine or that medicine, but for some, that medicine help maybe save your life. So,
Yeah.
in short, taking the stigma out of treatment.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm just really glad about where this conversation is going because, of course, even asking you to be on the show and even before we actually came on, we we were just the conversation that we were having. I wasn't expecting it to go here, but I really do appreciate you for letting those walls down because I think it's so important for other people to see something that you said. I experienced the same thing, and I think a lot of people
Mhm.
have. When I was actually ETSing, the guy actually asked me, did you get injured? I was like, I broke my foot, I broke my finger, had this it just ran a rant, called out some things, and he was like, you need to get documentation. And he printed out a copy of my medical
Oh,
records.
wow, he had your back because
Yeah,
when I ETS, they were like,
yeah,
"If you say something's wrong, you're not gonna be able to get out of here," and it was
yeah,
just like, "Nothing's wrong then?" Even though it's
yeah.
people set you up for failure all the time.
Yes, exactly. And even on that note, I do believe that back in the day, because from what I've heard, things have changed. From what I understand, in basic
Mhm.
training, you can hold up a red card or a yellow
Oh,
card.
yeah, that wasn't my era.
Mine either. I'll never forget a drill sergeant stepped on my head when I was doing the low crawl because my head was you go get your head shot off. So yeah, I had a drill sergeant step on my head
Yeah,
and
ours
went
put
straight in the
hands
mud.
on. They were not afraid to put hands on in '99 era, like I said.
Yes. So yeah, how can someone begin to actually build outside of what you've already covered, of course, getting
Mhm.
help if you need it, right? Professional help if they are currently feeling stuck or overwhelmed with whether it's military or and whatever it may be. But if you could specifically speak
Sure.
to veterans.
I think with veterans specifically, we're all assigned one thing when we start our career, and that's a battle buddy, right? Over the
Yes,
years, hopefully you
yes.
make some battles, friends you
Yeah,
chose, but we all kind of get assigned that battle buddy.
right.
And there's a reason for that. Having someone have your back that kind of knows you, whether it's
Mhm.
your sleeping habits, your eating habits, you have to have someone that knows your baseline to know that
Oh, that's
something's
good.
not normal, right? 'Cause if
Yes.
you're always moody and they're like, "Oh, that's just Steve. He's always moody," right? But if you're
Mhm.
always chipper and then one day you're moody, then they
Yeah,
know the difference. They can see the signs. So I think
yeah,
having people in your life, whether it's a spouse, a friend, even maybe a child or a colleague, someone in your life, when I say battle buddy, it doesn't have to be a fellow military or veteran, but it helps. We understand each other's language.
yes.
I just riffing. But I think having someone in your life that knows your baseline so that they can get you help when things are off, so that they notice that you've been smoking too much or
Yeah.
drinking too much or not
Mhm.
sleeping enough or whatever your addiction or whatever
Or
your stress
irritated. Sometimes maybe you're getting
Yeah.
irritated too quickly more than normal, you know?
Exactly, and maybe having a conversation with them before you're irritated so that you're like, "Hey, man, if I ever seem a little off, this is kinda like" you know how we have love languages, right? "This is how
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
to be loved." Some
Right.
version of that for this where it's like, "If I'm off, this is how I'd like you to treat it. Just give me some space or give
Mhm.
me a hug or let's talk through it or just sit with me in silence." Whatever it is for that person,
Yeah,
having a conversation up front so that the person knows how to support you, right? Because even if they see you off, now it's what do I do? Do I call 911? Do I give you a hug? Do I give
right.
you a pack of smokes? Do I pour you a drink? What is the treatment now? So I think having a companion in life that can help you through those dark times is super helpful. And you could have multiple, right? It doesn't have to just
Yeah.
be one person.
Exactly. Yeah. I like the fact that I like that you said that because even in just our everyday friendships, there are friends that you can talk to about certain things that you can't talk to other friends about. So
Yeah,
it's the same way with that. You know that there may be some friend that can help you in one area of that darkness, but someone else in another.
exactly.
I'll never forget I had a conversation with my mom. I think this was like one of my last inpatient stays in the psych ward. When I told my family that I was going into the hospital, I had just spent the day having dinner with my brother and his family. My brother asked, "Next time you know you can come over here, it's fine." I was like, "I was over there." I said, "But what you don't know is before I even got to my car, I was in tears." And then my mom asked, she said, "What can we do?" About what you said. "What can we do?" And I said, at the time, it was very difficult for me to answer that question. I said, "I don't know." I said, "Because I'm good at masking." "No,
Mhm.
everything's fine. I'm good."
Yeah.
And then I slowly but surely started depression proofing my life. And I told my family, I said, if you ever see my environment in disarray and unorganized where you can see that, okay, you can tell that she's been sitting there for a while. Literally,
Mhm.
it's
The signs.
because I had to realize that is something that I did when I was depressed. I would not move from the spot that I was in. And when I did, I plopped right back. I get up, do what I had to do, and go right back to that same spot. And
Mhm.
I realized that because I would come into back into the room and have a clear moment. Wait a minute. This place looks like a tornado went through it, you
Oh,
know?
and you didn't even realize you were
And
the
didn't
one
even
that
realize
oh,
it. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So it's important, as you say, to be honest, number
Yeah,
1,
of
about
course.
what people can look for.
Yeah, and I
And
think that helps give people tangible tools, right? Whenever I'm
yeah,
asked to speak at these things or do this type of stuff, I wanna leave people with tangible things you can do.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So what does mental strength look like for you every day and just in your everyday life?
I think for me personally, it's a blend of self-care
Yeah.
and seeking support. So for self-care, we as humans, we it's like the airline thing, you have to put your own mask on first before you can help
Mhm.
others.
Yep.
I think we have to take personal responsibility for
Mm,
ourselves. So when it
yes.
comes to nutrition and
Mm,
diet, exercise, those
yeah,
things help improve your mental health. Like
yeah,
if you have the ability to go for a run or maybe your disabilities don't allow that, doing whatever it is you can, a swim, a gym, a Pilates, whatever that thing is for you, go to it,
yeah.
and I think that's a part of it. I think also too, whatever brings you peace, whether it's religion or
Mm,
for me, I'm big on nature, being at the beach,
yes,
in the
being out, yes.
mountains, in the
Mhm.
forest, like
Yeah,
that
yeah, just very peaceful, yeah.
yeah, that
Mhm.
brings me peace, so
Yeah,
knowing again yourself, like, when I'm upset, when I'm frustrated, when I have stress, anxiety, depression, what calms me down as an individual, but then also, as I mentioned, knowing when, okay, not all the workout and the nutrition and the forest in the world is gonna pull me out of this. I need help. And so
yes.
it's knowing whether that's going to someone in a professional sense, a
Mm,
therapist or the VA or
mhm.
whatever, or a friend or a significant other or whoever is in your life, choosing selectively who to go to with the specific thing you're dealing with in that moment.
Yeah,
And I think that that is, for me, what I've realized has helped me develop my mental strength, and lastly, getting more sleep.
yeah,
I have lived an entire life of sleeping maybe 3, 4 hours and
right.
just drive
Feel good.
on and get all the stuff
Mhm.
done, and
Right.
only lately in my life have I realized, like, how much I've been punishing my body by just keeping going, so
Mhm.
on my journey, I'm trying to be more thoughtful of making sure I set boundaries and get enough sleep, and then,
Yeah.
try to for cognitive health. There's all these
Mhm.
things that go in it. It'd be a whole
Yeah,
'nother episode,
yeah.
but I think I'll close it by saying, in terms of the educator in me, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to have your basic needs met, food, shelter, and clothing, and security, and all those basic needs, and once those basic needs are met, then you can help others.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. So I do have a question. This wasn't
Sure.
on the list, but if you don't mind sharing, how were you able to get into voiceover while you were still in the military? How did you do that?
So remember I said I was Soldier of the Year a while back? Um,
Yes.
Ironically, when I was Soldier of the Year, there was this event, like a ceremony thing, and a director came to it unbeknownst to me, and he's, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like 26." I was like a staff sergeant at the time, E6, and he's like, "You're what we're looking for." They were like, "We need a alpha male for this campaign," and it was supposed to be like a one-day shoot, and it actually
Right.
turned into years of work in the entertainment industry. So for
Wow.
the military, I did Army commercials, National Guard commercials, trailers, movie trailers, like intros.
Yeah.
I did radio, I did some TV stuff, I did training videos. I'm Staff Sergeant Scott, and this is how you run the
Okay.
confidence course.
Wow,
Like,
that's
turned
awesome.
into all these little things. So it kinda became this cool side quest where even though I was, like, on active duty, they, like, let me do cool stuff because they went to the command team, so it was like an honor to be able to do it, to have one of
Yes.
the soldiers. So
Mm,
how I got started, ironically, is that was the first time I was getting paid to do acting and entertainment things, and I loved
mhm.
it so much, but because I was still in, they could only pay me active duty rates, which ironically now I know
Oh,
later, now that I'm a union actor, that
yes.
they should have paid me a lot more, but that's
Right.
okay. We're here now. It gave me the training. But that's how I got my start, and then later, it's a longer story, but I was able to meet an agent, And then Alyssa Gentile, I always give her credit for my career because I
Mhm.
met her at Comic-Con. She told me where to go to take classes. I took the classes. She told me where to go to get a microphone. I got the microphone. She told me where to
Right.
go to find a demo producer. I got a demo made. Like, it
Right.
gave me the tangible steps and mentored
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a critical piece of any career, military, civilian, whatever,
Mhm.
is having a mentor you trust that kind of gives you guidance. But as the mentee, you got to do the stuff. So whatever
You
she
gotta do the
told me to
work.
do, I
Yes, you
did
gotta
the
do the
stuff,
work.
and I would send her pictures, videos, updates. Hey, I did this, I did that. So she knew I was
Right.
serious and gave me an opportunity to do auditions. And then I was able to start booking. And then from there, I was like, oh, okay, you practice on the auditions, but now you're booking them. So
Yeah.
my career kind of took off little by little from there. But the start was really, in terms of getting paid as a professional actor, was in the military, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's awesome. The one takeaway that I would say that is gonna stick out in my mind that you said, because it encompasses every part of your conversation, and that is being self-aware. We have to really know ourselves,
Absolutely.
and again, be honest with ourselves about how we're feeling, all the different things that we're actually going through in order to make sure that we have what we need mentally, physically, all those different things, all those different areas. I'm going to show your information. Is there anything that I did not ask that you want to cover while I'm actually showing your contact information?
You've been a very thorough interviewer, and I appreciate us having conversations. And it's funny because when we talk as veterans, right? You always know when someone's stolen valor when they're like, "Oh yeah, I was in the military," and you start asking them little things, and they just quite can't answer. Like, "Oh, what was your MOS?" And they're like, "I was in the military." Wait a second.
Right.
It's I feel like my point being, I'm glad you're doing this as a fellow veteran because
Yeah.
we speak a certain language, even across
Right.
the different branches. There are certain things in terms of continuity, brotherhood, sisterhood,
Yeah.
bring us together because of a
Yeah.
shared life experience. So I just want to say I'm glad you're doing this. For anyone who hears anything I say or you say
Yeah.
through all your episodes that can change a life, that's what we're here for, right?
Mhm.
Looking out for those signs and symptoms, because the saddest thing is when you hear someone's committed suicide or done something to
Yeah.
hurt themselves or someone else in some way, and you're like, "Man, I had no idea. If only I knew, I could have helped them in some way." And I think knowing yourself, knowing when to ask for help, but also being brave and willing to just check on people, and
Yeah.
maybe not just taking, "I'm fine, I'm cool,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
whatever it is for an answer, and digging a little deeper
Yeah.
respectfully and over
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You
Oh,
can find
sorry.
me at Michael Scott Action. I'm
Yes.
mostly on Instagram, full name and Action. Michael Scott Action is my stage name.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on the show and for taking the conversation in a different but necessary place. So, yeah, I really appreciate that. It was
Hey,
definitely needed, and I know it's gonna help a lot of veterans. And I say veterans, but also service members,
yeah,
because a lot of what you touched on is going to help them, like, even
mhm,
just knowing to document things.
yeah. Of the troops, for the troops.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. This is Marion Mills reminding you, stay intentional, stay resilient, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on Depression Proof Your Life Live tonight. If this conversation stirred up heavy emotions for you, reach out for help. Call or text 988 for 24-hour support in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., look up your local crisis helpline. If you'd like to stay connected with DPYL, make sure to follow and subscribe on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And visit depression-prooflife.com for resources, blogs, and to share your story. Depression Proof Your Life offers workshops and trainings designed to help teams reduce burnout and strengthen resilience. Together, we're building a community of strength, clarity, and resilience. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, healing is possible.